Hi again. I just wanted to do my second part of my last video doing the Apple keychain, and then I'm actually going to do two other keychains, one of which is the ballet tutu that I had posted pictures of, and people were asking if I did the glitter on the front and the back and then, you know, epoxy both sides. With the last tutu I did, it was a light purple at the top and a dark purple at the bottom. I actually only glittered and epoxied one side, so I'm going to show you how to do that, and then I'm going to show you how I do different colors on the unicorn mane. Okay, so what you're going to need is your acrylic blanks, your Mod Podge, X-Acto knife, you're going to need a sponge, brush, or something else that you want to use your Mod Podge with, something to weed your decals, the glitters you're going to be using, and some transfer tape. You're also going to want your decal that you had already cut out. So these are my 3 pieces of my decal. So what I'm going to do first, so let me tilt you down just a little bit. I am going to weed out the transparent glitter vinyl. So I am just going to take that off, and then take the circle off. This is the stem. Again, this one was not glitter. This one's just like a bronze colored metallic. So this one you could reverse if you needed to, or mirror your image if you needed to. And then this green is also the transparent glitter vinyl. And again, if you did not see my last video that I just posted, the transparent glitter vinyl is colored on one side, the other side is silver. Sometimes you can see that color peeking through. Like this one, you can see a lot of the green that peeks through. So when you put it to the front of the keychain of the acrylic, you're going to see that color, through the back. And again, because the front side is where all the color is, you're going to have to apply this on the front of the keychain. You cannot mirror this one unless you want the silver to show as the front part of the keychain. So here's my apple. I'm just going to take one side off. I leave the back side on for when I epoxy it. If it spills over, it's protected. Okay. Now, the transparent glitter vinyl is a lot stickier, in my opinion, than regular vinyl, 651 vinyl. So if you have troubles laying your decal, I do suggest you use the wet method with this, specifically with this vinyl in general. With the wet method, you will want to use a paper transfer tape, something similar to this. I get it off Amazon. Today, since I've already applied it once before, I'm just going to use my regular clear transfer tape. So let me just cut a piece of this off. So I got kind of a big roll here, so give me 1 second. You will also need, and I always forget this, so let me see if I have it somewhere, your squeegee tool. So I'm going to do the apple part first, or the red part of the apple. And just move you down. And I kind of have to, sorry. Sorry guys, I'm like blind and I don't have my glasses on. So sometimes you can peel it right back off. I just did it a little higher than I wanted, but not all the time. So again, wet method is best. And I'm pretty much lining it up with the key ring hole. All right, so all right. So the other thing I like about this, which I have a little air bubble, but that's okay. The other thing I like about this vinyl, you see it kind of has like a texture to it, and I feel like it's a good texture for an apple. But I think once you put the, I don't even remember paying attention to the other ones that I did, but once you put the epoxy one, I don't think you can see that texture to it. But, so, I have 2 bubbles in here. Sometimes you can fix the bubbles if you poke a little hole in it. So I'm just gonna poke a hole and rub that one. So that one's pretty much gone. And then I have one here on the side. The ones on the edges are actually really easy. You see that one right there? You can just pick up the vinyl just a little bit and brush that out. And that's pretty much gone. So next I want to do the stem. I'm just gonna use the same piece of vinyl. My light is putting a glare on it, so it's making it hard for me to see. And then we'll do the leaf. So you have to pay attention to your leaf when you cut it out because there is a top and a bottom. You want to make sure the the sharper point of the leaf is this point here on the leaf, because the bottom you can see is a little bit rounded. And there you have it. I forget my thing zoomed in, but. So then you can add whatever, you can leave it as is, add a name, teacher's name or whatever. But once you peel the back off, I'm just gonna show you a small part of it. Once you peel this off after you've epoxied, you get that clear outline like that. And that's what the back will look like. So once I add my name decal, which I don't have anybody who ordered one of these yet, so I don't really have a name on there. I just wanted to show you how to do it. I'll add that name and then I'll seal the whole keychain with epoxy. Okay, so moving on to my tutu, I'm going to, this one I'm going to need my sponge brush for my Mod Podge. My Mod Podge, I use the gloss. I don't really think it matters which one you use, but I use this one. And this one I'm going to do blue and yellow. Again, you also want to use whatever is going to catch your glitter. I'm going to use 2 pieces of paper, or actually a paper just cut in half, so I can pour my glitter back into the container. I'm going to do the lighter color first, only because that's how I did the last one, so I'm going to do it the same way. Alright guys. Okay. Again, I'm going to only do the Mod Podge and the glitter on the front of my keychain. And I'm also going to, once I've done both layers of my glitter, I'm going to seal it one last time with Mod Podge. I'm going to do a thin layer of epoxy. Then I will add my decal and then seal it with epoxy the last time. That way I'm not struggling to do on both sides and taking the chance of epoxy running off if it's not thick enough or if I put too much. That way it's still on one side and I'm only going to epoxy the one side, so if it drips onto the back, I'll still have this paper backing on the back that when I take it off, it just pops right off. So, is that? And let me open my blue because this is a brand new bottle. So I'm going to shake up my Mod Podge, and I'm just going to squeeze some Mod Podge out onto my blank. And I'm only doing a thin coat of Mod Podge because I'm going to do 2 coats of glitter. So the first coat, like, you don't have to do it super thick. If you do the Mod Podge really thick, you're going to get clumps and you're going to see it on the other side. You want to try to keep your brush strokes in one direction if you can, because sometimes you can see that too, depending on how light the glitter is. I'm going to add a little bit more. Okay. So I'm going to move this piece of paper, and I'm going to do my yellow first. Actually, I'm going for kind of the ombre look, so I'm going to use the shaker part. Normally I use the bigger part. tap that off, and I'm going to move that to the side because I'm going to use it again, and then this one I'm going to do the blue. And I kind of just want to go a little bit up to the top. Make sure to get my ends. And already it's so pretty. But you see it's kind of, some spots are a little bit more translucent, so that's what the second glitter coat's going to help with. Now, I know that when I do a second coat, the blue is going to be completely covered. I might have to do a third coat of the yellow, only because it's a lighter color and you can kind of see through it more than the blue. So that's going to dry. I let mine dry at least an hour before I do the second coat, like a minimum of an hour. So I'm just going to pour this glitter back into my container because I want to save it and use it. I don't like to waste any glitter. And same with this one. And again, I suggest doing 2 different papers, or however many different colors you're going to use. I suggest that many pieces of paper because you don't want to mix your colors. All right, so now I'm going to do the unicorn. And I'm going to do the unicorn mane. And I was going to do, normally I do this on the back, the glitter on the back, and then I'll do the name and stuff on the front, but I'm just going to do it like I'm doing the tutu, and I'm going to do everything on the front. So with this one, I'm going to do different colors. So I'm going to cut out the part where I'm going to do colors at. And she wants pink and purple mane, so I'm just kind of gonna cut out different chunks. Can't see this one. And then I'm also going to cut out where the horn goes because they're all going to be different colors. So you can just see what I did there. I cut out where the horn is, the little piece of hair here. I cut a line down to separate the horse's head from the horse's hair, or unicorn. And then I cut different lines here, and I'm going to alternate colors. So I'm just going to take off the colors I'm going to do in purple first. So I'm going to do this one. In purple. And just make sure that you get the thing cut enough. And then this one's going to be pink, so I'm going to do this one purple. And then I'm going to do this one purple. I have to sharpen my tool here. So I'm going to Mod Podge these three, wait for it to dry. I'm going to Mod Podge these two. Actually, I'm going to do the 2 layers of glitter on these. Wait for it to dry. And then I'll do these 2, wait for it to dry. And then I'll do the unicorn's horn. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my brush because I don't want it to be too much. And I'm just going to dab it there. Okay. You don't have to tap it down or press it down on there. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So there is the purple. I'm going to let this one dry, and then I'm going to do a second coat of the purple, and then I'm going to do the pink. I'm just going to set that to the side and just add this back in there. Alright, so I will see you in about an hour. Okay guys, I'm back and the first layer has dried for an hour of the purple glitter, and then with the tutu, the yellow and the blue. So we're going to take our sponge brush that we used in the first part. I just took it and rinsed it off with water. It's still just a tad damp, but that's okay. I'm going to use the same brush to do the second layer. And again, I'm just going to put a little bit on there. Okay, go over there, please. Alright, so that layer is done. And I'll only need 2 layers for the purple.
Mommy, I go play with you. Mommy, I go do it with you. Mommy, I go do it with you. Mommy,
In a little bit, baby.
please. I do it.
No, you can't do this one. Go, I have some sharp things in here. You can't be in here right now, okay? Go downstairs with Daddy, please.
Maybe
Hold on, you guys.
I want it too.
Okay, sorry about that. So that second layer is going to dry. I'm going to Mod Podge over top of that to seal it, and then I'll do the pink. Now when I go to Mod Podge that last layer, I'm going to use the same paintbrush because it's already got the purple in there. When I do the pink, I'll use a different one, or I'll try to use the other side without getting the purple in there. Okay. And then now to this one. Now for this one, because my red brush has purple glitter, I'm going to use a new brush. And I got these brushes, it's a pack of like 75 or something like that, from Michael's for like 10 bucks, and I've barely made a dent in them, and I've had the bucket for a long time now because I like to wash them and reuse them as much as I can. And sometimes if I forget to wash it and the tip dries with the Mod Podge, I'll just cut it and use it and get all the uses I can out of them. Alright, so now because it's a lighter color on the top, I'm going to brush from top to bottom because I don't want the blue from the bottom of the dress going up to the top. Okay. And even though you can actually kind of see some because it looks like there was some loose on there, but it's okay, you won't see it after the second layer. Okay, so again, I'm going to do the yellow first. Just realized I put this on the wrong paper. Apparently I got blue everywhere. So. Oh no. Well, that just got messed up a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I did not mean to do that, but it kind of came out a little bit faster than I wanted. Just gonna add a little bit of blue right there. And once you tap it off, most of that should come off. If it wouldn't have came off right there, then I would have just waited a few minutes for it to dry and then took a paintbrush and kind of went over that. But it's good. I like it still. So I will let this dry, and where's this side? This side's still. So I'm just, sorry, I keep forgetting to zoom in. So I'm just going over some spots really quick that are really thin. And I'm kind of just dabbing it. I'm not moving my brush around because I don't want to move my glitter around since it's still wet. And I'm just going to go back over. Now this line here doesn't have to be really perfect or anything. One, I'm kind of doing like an ombre type thing, and two, when I go to put the little sash, it's going to cover that up anyways. You're only really going to see this line right here on the back side, which you already did on your first layer, so it really is not going to make that big of a difference. And it's already starting to dry. Kind of tapping the extra off here, and then I'm going to add these back. Now I did do that apple a little bit ago with just the vinyl, but I wanted you to see what it looks like if you just do glitter versus the vinyl. So here's the glittered one. It's extra sparkly, and well, I have no clue what I did with the vinyl one right now, so sorry, my daughter probably just took it. But anyways, so here's the glitter one. Alright, well, we'll be back in a little bit to do the last layer of the tutu and start on the purple, the pink one for the unicorn. Okay, so our second layer of purple is completely dry. So now I want to seal it. And then while that's wet, I am going to pick up the parts where I'm going to make pink. Yeah, it gives you that nice clean line, but you have to make sure you don't pull it off too late because it will start pulling up your other glitter. And that purple, once this is dry, I'll just take another brush and get that purple off. I'm going to leave the horn on there because I'm going to do the pink once this is dry. Now to the dress. I am going to do just the yellow part now. It's okay. Again, that I got a little bit of blue specks up there because it's going to be covered with the yellow. And then once the yellow part is completely dry, I'm going to go over the whole thing with the last layer of Mod Podge. So that's a really pretty dark yellow. And I'm actually going to add just a tiny bit of blue over top, because I did it a little far down. So I'm just dabbing to make sure I don't move the yellow glitter that I just laid down. From where I handled it on the corner, I'm going to add just a little bit more yellow. So there you have the two colors of blue and yellow. And I am going to let that dry, and then we're going to seal both of these, or both of the colors at one time, and then we're going to do the unicorn again. And I did find my two apples. So this is the transparent glitter vinyl, and this is glitter. So of course the glitter is a lot more glittery because this is just a fine glitter. I didn't even do the extra fine, and in here it's just like metallic flakes. So it kind of gives you two different looks. So there's that. Okay, you guys, so the tutu keychain blank has been drying for a while, so now I'm going to add the last coat of Mod Podge before I seal it with epoxy. And because the glitter is going to soak up this Mod Podge, you're going to need more than what you used in the beginning. Alright, and then there you go. That's going to dry overnight, and tomorrow we will add, make sure I got the top of this really well. Tomorrow we'll add the epoxy. Alright, so now I want to move on to the unicorn. Now before I start, I'm going to, I'm just going to take a random paintbrush here and brush off any excess glitter. So it doesn't get into my pink layer. I'm just gonna do a little dab. If you have smaller brushes, which I don't have with me now, it will be best to use it on this part here. That way you can really get in the corners there and try not to get it on the purple like I did. I'm just going to smooth that off. And I'm just going to almost forgot that my pink was new as well. When you you do thin layers of the Mod Podge, it dries really fast. You see it's already starting to go a little clear. And already we have a really pretty mane. So again, this one's going to get a second coat of pink, possibly a third coat, because we can see how transparent that is because it's a lighter color. But I think 2 coats would be good. So I'll let that dry and we'll do the next coat later. Alright, so now my next step is going to be mixing a very small batch of epoxy. That way we can do our epoxy layer on the tutu. And while this sits to thicken up a little bit, we're going to do our second layer of pink and gold on the unicorn. So I am using the Illuminate Amazing Clear Cast in the blue box. It comes with 2 parts, part A and part B. I use bottle stoppers in the medium size. I really don't know what millimeter the bottle stopper is because I get them from the pharmacy. And then I'm using a syringe. I'm only going to do 2.5 mLs for each part. So you just want to make sure that you mix it really well together. You see how when you start mixing it, it's kind of cloudy. You want to make sure you mix it to where it goes back clear. If you mix it slower, you'll get less bubbles, but I don't have time to wait for that. So I mix mine a little bit faster and I'll let it sit. If you let it sit for a little bit, some of the bubbles will pop. And then I use either a lighter or torch to pop the rest of them when I go to apply it. Alright, so you see how it went from that cloudy color to this clear. That's the color you want it, and that's how you know it's mixed up really well. And then I'm going to let it sit at least 15 to 20 minutes. Checking every 5 minutes or so to see how thick it is. You see how runny it is. You want it to thicken up just a little bit. That way you have more control over it and it doesn't spill as much off the sides of the blank. So while that sits, we're going to use the sponge brush again. And apparently I left this on, so it's a little dry right there. So what I do is I just cut that piece off and I continue to use my brush. Now, because you don't have that brown paper on this one, you do want to be careful where you put the glue because you don't want it to go over top of the purple. And again, if you have a smaller paintbrush, it's probably best to do this with a small paintbrush. So I did put a little bit of that gold up there, so I'm just gonna kind of work a little quickly in. And I think I might do one more coat of, sorry guys, one more coat of the pink one, this one at least, because it's a little transparent on the edge. I'll just leave that. And I'm going to add a little bit of Mod Podge to this one. And we're going to do the gold. You can probably get away with one layer of the gold, but I'm still going to do two. Alright, so again, we'll let this dry for about an hour. We'll seal the gold for the last time, and then depending on how it looks for that last layer of pink, I might either just seal it or add one more layer of pink. Alright, so we'll see you guys back soon. I'm going to just keep checking on the epoxy, and once it thickens up, we'll go ahead and add it to the tutu. Okay, so this has been sitting for at least 10 minutes, and if you can kind of see, it's still thin, but it's a little bit thicker than what it was. So I'm probably going to let it sit for another 5 minutes before I add it. And then you can also kind of see that most of the bubbles are gone. The bigger bubbles anyways. There are some micro bubbles in there, but once you hit it with the heat, they should all evaporate. I'm just going to let it sit for another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to add it to my tutu. So I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, so for this part you're going to need either a popsicle stick if you choose to spread yours out with a popsicle stick, a silicone makeup brush if you want to use that, which that's what I use, and a lighter or a torch. For smaller things like this, I like the lighter. So let me just show you that these are usually what I use. I use this one the most. I got it in like a 5 or 6 pack of different sizes, all the way up to the really big one, off Amazon. I know that 3rd Degree Laser now sells that big silicone brush. I use those for like cups and stuff like that. This is the size that is. It's dirty. I have to peel it right off, but the joy of silicone, you could just peel it right off. And it comes right off. So you can also try with the larger one. You can use the tips of it. I found that I like the smaller ones better. Like I said, I use this one the most, so this is what I'm going to use. I am actually going to try using this new silicone stirring stick that I got. They're also on the website, so I'll try with this first, and if anything, I'll use the other one. So it's kind of thick, almost like a syrup now, and it's not really like water. You don't want to let it set too long, because once it reaches a point of setting to where it's really thick, then it's not going to work out. You can't really spread it out even if you heat it up. So I'm only going to add a little bit at a time. If I need more, I can always add more, but you cannot take enough off. So I'm going to start out with that. Actually, I did say I was going to try this, so. And I kind of make sure that I kind of touch the edges with it, because I want to make sure I seal in the edges as well. Make sure you do your epoxy on top of silicone, like a silicone mat or some wax paper, in case you do have runs from the epoxy. If it's on a silicone mat, you've seen how it peeled right off of my silicone brush. It will do the same with that as well, even if it gets on the paper backing on the other side. So hopefully you guys see that when I'm spreading it around, it's thick and it's not really looking to run right off. So if you can hold out on letting it sit for at least 15 minutes, I would suggest to do that. So I definitely need a little bit more. I'm just going to add a very little bit. It's also really easy if you let it thicken up to go around the key ring hole, and it won't go in there most of the time. Sometimes it still goes in there, but you could just take a drill and a small drill bit and drill it out, and you'll be fine. I'm just going to add just a tiny bit more. And you see how it's pretty much self-level. I'm just going to add a little tiny drop over here. So it's all over. So now what I'm going to do is take my lighter and I'm just going to go over it to pop those little bubbles. And when you go over it, you can kind of see the little bubbles. Let me see if I can get you. Give me just a second. if maybe you can see the bubbles pop there. And from my end, it looks really smooth. I'm just gonna go over it one more time. Alright. You do have to be careful with the lighter or torch or whatever you're using, just in case, because you can burn the epoxy. So you just want to go over lightly, really quick. Alright. So this was the next to last step. Next, we're going to do the decal and then the final layer of epoxy, and it will be ready to go. So I will let this sit overnight and make sure my room is at least 72 degrees. That way it can set, and it'll be hard for me to add the decal tomorrow on top of it, and then I could just add the last coat of epoxy and then let it sit another 24 hours. Alright, so we'll be back in just a little bit when doing the unicorn. Alright, so this unicorn has been drying. So now I'm just going to do one more. I don't know if I want to do one more. I'm going to do one more layer of the pink, and then I'll seal the gold for the last time. Gold on it, so I'm gonna lay this down. Alright, that's gonna be my last layer of pink. I'm going to seal the gold. Then I'm going to come back and seal the pink, and then we'll move on to doing the white. You only want to do the colors first and do the white last, because you do not want any colors to go into your white glitter. For keychains like this that have multiple colors on the main, I charge $12 because, as you can see, it's so labor intensive. It's got a lot of steps, and well, people pay for it, so Time is money, you guys. If it was only one color here, I usually charge 10. But most of the time, my unicorns are always 12 because of all the different colors and steps I have to go through. Alright, we'll be back shortly. Alright, so we're back and we're just going to seal the last layer of pink. The purple's already sealed, the gold's already sealed and dried. So we're just going to seal the last layer of pink, and then we're going to take the brown paper off. Okay. Alright, so that is sealed. And then I'm going to push any of this off. What a pretty clean line. So you could touch that up right there, just move it over. Alright. And there you have it. Once this dries, we are going to add the white glitter. And the white glitter is going to take at least 3 to 4 coats to make it more opaque than transparent. So we'll be back in a little while to do the white glitter. Okay, so the pink is dry, the purple is dry, and the horn is dry. So now what we want to do is get a new brush, and we're going to do Mod Podge the white layer now. Let me try to open this. So this is the Darcy brand. You can go to their website and get glitter really cheap. This is exactly like Recollections brand from Michaels. Same exact thing, same exact colors. So that's what I'm going to use. This is called Glitz, and it's the same name in the Recollection brand. I just ran out of that. So I already have used this before, and I know you need minimum 3 coats. I typically do at least 4, or at least 3, but I like to do 4. So I grabbed a new paintbrush and a new piece of paper. There's a couple specks of glitter on there, but for the majority it's clean, and I don't want to have any like purple or pink glitter getting into the white parts. So So just be careful you don't get it. And the rest of it. So because I got it over there, I'm just gonna push it around. So already that's looking so pretty. So again, you follow the same steps you did with the mane and the horn. You're going to do that 3 times, see how you like the transparency that it may have. If it's still a little too transparent for you, you want to make sure you do at least 1 more coat of the glitter. And then once you've gotten it to where you like it, you will seal it again, and then you'll do the epoxy. So I am going to let this dry. I'm going to repeat my steps and do at least 3 more layers of the glitter, and then I will come back and show you how to epoxy this one just like I did with the tutu. Okay, so my tutu has been drying for 24 hours. It's hard, level. The only place that sometimes it doesn't get level is around the key ring hole. So when I put the second coat, it won't be rough. It's a little rough right now. I could sand that and then put a second coat, but I'm just going to do the second coat. But there it is, so pretty. So here I have my decal. I'm going to put the belt on first, and then I'll put her name on. There, you guys, I can't really see. This tape I have is like super sticky. Usually I do the wet method, but I kind of want to see what I'm doing here. Okay, so that side matches up. All right. You guys, there's a glare from my light. It's making it hard for me to see. Pretty happy with that. Okay. I already have my epoxy mixed up to put that second layer. So once I put the second layer on there, it's going to dry for at least 24 to 48 hours before I do anything to it. Epoxy takes 72 hours to fully cure once it's dry. So you want to avoid shipping or anything like that if you have to ship it out until you've reached that 72-hour mark, because it can indent the epoxy. So here's that. And with this one, I'm just going to take a little bit of alcohol and just wipe over where my fingerprints were. It's going to dry for a minute, and then we're going to epoxy. Okay, so there's a little glare from my light, so there you go. Okay, so I have my epoxy. It's been sitting for probably at least 10 minutes, but I'm not going to let it sit any longer, because if it drips off, I want to show you guys how you can easily get it off. And again, you want to start with a little bit versus a lot. So good, this one's actually going to drip off a little bit, so I can show you how to clean this up once it's fully dry. So again, I am being a little bit messier with this one because I want to show you guys how to peel it off. Okay. Alright, so you see how it's dripping off? I'm actually going to pull it off of the paper, only because this is regular printer paper and not wax paper, so it's going to stick to the paper and it's not going to pop right off, which it really doesn't matter because you have the brown paper backing on the back. But I don't want it to get on my desk either, so I'm just going to use another medicine cup, and I'm going to lift it off and just set it on top of the medicine cup, so any of the epoxy that's dripping off can just drip. Sorry for the delay, I'm just opening up a new lighter. So good, and actually this time it went inside of the keychain hole. And this is more because I didn't let it sit long enough for it to get thick, which is fine because like I said, I wanted to show you guys how you can fix it. All right, no bubbles. And I'm going to, if you let this dry a little while and then come back and kind of blow into that hole a little bit, it kind of makes the epoxy dip down, so it's easier to use your drill than when it's completely flat. Your drill kind of goes all over the place sometimes. So we will come back to this one once it's completely dry, and we'll show you how to clean that up. I'm just going to move this to the side. Now I just wanted to show you really quick what the unicorn looks like. This is the 4th layer of glitter. I have to seal it after it's dried, and then I'll epoxy that one as well. Alright you guys, so the tutu is 100% dry, so I'm just going to pull it off of the medicine cup, and you see that the epoxy had dripped onto the other side. It ran down the medicine cup, but because we left the brown paper backing on, it's really easy to pull off. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to drill through the keychain hole right there because the epoxy went in. So you're going to need a drill and a small drill bit. This is what I have here. And I'm just going to slowly go through here. Now I'm not doing it too hard or pressing too much because I don't want it to break the acrylic, which can happen. So I'm just going little by little. And I also don't want to drill my finger, so. as simple as that. Let me just get this out of here and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm just cleaning it up, getting all that dust out of there. Alright, so there you go. Nice and pretty clean hole. And you see it pushed it right through on that paper backing, so now I'm just going to pull it right off. There you go. It comes right off. All right, now, I just made a mess of that. Okay, so there's like little pieces here, and you can kind of see a little bit here that I want to take off. So what I'm just going to do is just take my X-Acto knife and I'm just going to trim around the edges, and the epoxy will pop right off and give you a real clean finish. And sometimes if you have a little bit of glitter right there, you can take your X-Acto knife to clean that off as well. See, pops off really easy. So you'll just do this going around each side until it is close to perfect. Now, if it's not big drips, you're more than welcome to leave it there, because sometimes something like that, sometimes you don't see it, the customer's not really going to see it. So if you don't feel comfortable and it's not a whole lot, you can certainly leave it there. It's not going to bother anything at all. Alright, and then I have a little bit up here. Alright, you guys. So I got a little bit of sticky residue right here from the paper backing, I'm assuming. So I'm just gonna take a piece of paper towel and a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and I'm gonna wipe that right off. There you go. And this is when you want to add your keychain hardware. Now I see that some people have trouble with that too. So let me show you what you'll need to do for that. You're going to need a pair of regular pliers and a pair of needle nose pliers. Really, you can use 2 pair of pliers. I don't know why I do the needle nose, but you'll need your jump ring and your keychain ring, or your key ring. And both of these, the jump ring and the key ring, come with the hardware, if anybody's wondering. So I'm gonna take one side with one plier, the other side with the other. And you want to do a twisting motion and not pulling open. You want to twist side to side. That's how you open it. Put it on. This one. Holding that tight. And you want to twist it back. Sorry. And there you go. And then you can add whatever charms, tassels, whatever you want to it. I'm going to add a ballet charm and a rose. I think I want to do a blue rose. And I want to do a ballet charm. That one. The same thing with these little charms. You can add these, and I'm just going to use a smaller jump loop. It doesn't really matter. And there you have it, it's all finished. And this is what the back looks like. It was never touched. And the yellow to blue goes into the ombre. Alright, so moving on. Now I have The unicorn, all the layers of white have been done. It's been sealed. I put 4 coats on this one. 3 would have been fine too, but I decided to put 4. Okay, so let me show you a little something with this. You could do this with all your keychains also. Instead of having to wait to get some of these edges off after your epoxy, if you take a fingernail file and just kind of go around it, just a little bit, because you can scratch up the acrylic. It would take off that excess glitter on the sides. You can use the metal files too. I just have this one because it's what I had in my beauty supplies. Sometimes on a little bit of curve, it kind of, you can file it or you can go around with your X-Acto knife. I'll show you that. You just have to be careful because sometimes with the X-Acto knife you can pull up some of your glitter. So better just to file it. Sorry, keep forgetting about this camera. Alright, so this is ready to be epoxied. I have my epoxy that I've been letting sit. It's been sitting probably about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. So it's kind of thick. And the same thing with the ballet tutu. You just kind of put some on. And you want to spread it around, making sure to go around all the edges. use this one. This one's got a finer point to it, a little bit more flexible. Alright, so I'm just going to go over it in a second with the lighter, and I'll let it dry, and we'll add the decal, and then the last coat of epoxy. I did this one a little bit thicker, so the last coat of epoxy, I just need a thin coat to cover the decal. Alright, so I will let this dry for 24 hours. We'll come back and do the decal and seal it for the last time. Alright, you guys, so I have the decals put on after the epoxy dried. I just went ahead and put it on. So now I just need to add the last layer of epoxy, which would get rid of these two little dimples right there, and seal the decal. So again, just like the tutu, I've already had my epoxy sitting for a couple of minutes. You can see it's a little thick. And I'm only going to put a thin layer on here. So I'm going to just do a little bit at a time. I have it sitting on top of a medicine cup, that way it can kind of drip off. And you want to make sure you hit all of your edges. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Alright, so that's finished. Now I'm just going to take my lighter and go over it to get any bubbles out. I'm going to kind of look at it towards the light to make sure that I have everything sealed. There's no dimples or anything like that. I just want to, looks like I might have missed some over here, so I'm just going to hit that edge right there. Make sure I don't miss any. Alright, you guys, there you go. It's going to dry again for another 24 hours, and then we'll clean it up and get it packaged and ready to go after it sits for another day after it's cleaned up. Alright. Here is my unicorn and my ballet tutu that's finished and ready to be packaged. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to message me if you have any questions. Thank you guys. Have a great night.